Tara Lynn with 5 Acres Honey Farm. It has been a while since I've updated you on the hives because we've had a lot going on. My sister just got married, lots of family stuff, and the garden has been really overwhelming, which I'll give a garden tour later this week. But for now, I have a lot of updates on the hives. I have 3 hives now, I think, since the last I posted a video. Didn't have 3, I had 2 at the time, so I did have to split one. But let's go take a look and we'll learn some on the way. This probably looks a little different. The high tunnel is finally up with its plastic, and since it's in the high 80s today, we've got the sides rolled up, and got the 2 hives that I had here plus the one I split. Okay, I just checked all these frames and they're getting full pretty quick, and they're already filling in these frames with nectar, and there's really no room for her to lay anymore. So I'm going to get these frames situated back in here, and because they've grown so much in the past week, I'm going to put a new box on top. This is a box where I've already numbered the frames. This was set up last year that I ended up not even using. And what I'm going to do is, I don't have a pen with me right now, it's actually out in the bee yard, is when I get out to the bee yard, I'm going to change these 20s to 21, so that way I'll know 2021 is when the frames were started to be put into use. And what I'm about to do is I'm going to remove every other frame. It's called checkerboarding, if you haven't heard of it before. And what I will do is I'm going to just put aside, got so much stuff here, I'll just put it in here for now. I'm going to checkerboard a new frame with some already drawn combs. So the new frames, when I'm talking about that, these have wax foundation, and that way the bees have like a little bit of a head start. And the idea with putting a drawn comb frame next to foundation is that as they build it out, they're going to build pretty evenly, which is really good for future use. And this particular hive I have been feeding, and they've kind of slowed down their syrup intake, but because I'm giving them foundation and they're going to be building a lot of wax here in the comb, which takes a lot of resources, I want them to focus on building that at this really important time of the year. And because you really can't get them to draw wax any other time of the year, so I want to take advantage of that and get some fresh comb so that I'm not deplete of comb in a few years as I cycle it out. And just as a reminder, I'm in the Certified Naturally Grown program, so that means that any comb that's more than 3 years old, I get rid of. So I have these organized by like 2019, 2020 down to 2018 was in the bottom row. There's like a few random ones in there that I save for swarm traps. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some kind of a mix of 2019 and 2020, so that way I can get some use out of them before they get retired in a few years. All right, so what I did is I have the outer frames are drawn comb, and then we've got the foundation. This is drawn, and then this one here in the middle, what I'm actually going to do, and I'll kind of show this when we're out there, is this center frame, I'm actually going to pull in a frame of nectar from the box below that's already out in the yard, and it's going to go up here, and that's going to help motivate the bees to come up. And then as they draw out the comb on either side, they have that that nectar resource right there next to where they need to start building that comb. And that way too, as the queen moves up and they start to build that comb out, she starts to lay, they have food then for the brood. I just added the 3rd box on top. Oh, that reminds me, I needed to remove this IPM board, which I might need 2 hands for. It looks like it got a little stuck in here. I had put this in because we actually got 2 nights last week down to 32, so it was really chilly, so I put that in for their extra insulation. So now they've got the screen bottom board open, and like I described, I pulled up this frame of nectar from the box below, so we've already got some bee coverage up here, and they'll come explore. I do have like 1 less frame than this box can hold up here, mainly because I want to keep these frames closer, and I don't want things to be too crowded when I'm moving them around. So if I see any bird comb, then I'll add an extra frame in. And now I'm going to put the feeder back on and feed them. And I just make a huge container of syrup, and then I give them about 1/3 of this, like every other day or so, depending on what they need. So I kind of gauge with how much they're consuming, and then I might give them more or less and how big their population is. So give them a little bit more, and then that way I have enough where I can come out in a few days and fill this up again. This is the colony that I split, and it has excellent coverage. Right now it's just 3 mediums, and what I'm doing right now is I'm only checking the top box because there's no brood up here, and they had already started filling it with nectar, and they're still filling it, but not at the rate I was expecting. But they have plenty of food in here, and I'm not going to inspect the bottom 2 boxes because that's where they've created queen cells, and they will be making a new queen, so I don't want to risk damaging those queen cells and them losing their queen. And this would be a descendant of the very first queen that I have ever had here, so it's even more important to me to make sure they have what they need. So since they won't have any brood for about a month or so, and the nectar flow is going on, I'm pretty much just letting them collect their nectar and do what they need to do, and I'll check them in mid to late May for a queen, which still gives me plenty of time if they're unsuccessful to get another one. And that is the colony we just looked at, where the queen was moved over to, and she's growing it very quickly. So now we have one more to look at. Check out this bird pattern. This is looking really good. This is the colony that was pretty sad, and definitely not looking sad now. Got Queen Ophelia running around looking for some spots to lay. This is a good example if you're not feeding the bees, and I'm just remembering I forgot to put the ones on the other frames. I'll do that next time. But like this box I put on last week, and I had taken the feeder off because they weren't eating any syrup, and so I should have probably just left it on. So now I need to go get another feeder and get it on. But basically I didn't do the checkerboard on this one. I just wanted them to build new comb in here since they had a slow spring getting started. I'm going to add the feeder, and then that way they can build out some fresh comb on either side here. And I already have their frame of nectar here. They very slowly started to fill this out with nectar. This is drawn comb as well. So overall, this looks way better than it did a month ago, and even way better than it did 2 months ago. Okay, the hive inspections are done, and I'm changed and refreshed, and now I'm gonna go play with the chickens. And I wanted to show you, I was looking around here, I wanted to show you all the flowers that are blooming right now, and then we'll let the chickens out. This is Daisy Fleabane, and this just kind of started as a patch that maybe was like right here that we noticed when we were lazy with mowing when we first moved in. And then this one kind of expanded out here. I thought this was something different, but this expanded out just by letting it kind of spread on its own. Are you girls ready to come out? Ready to come out? Go, go, go. Crazy. To get some eggs. So there's the fake egg behind here, and then we've got these 2 eggs we can take in, and that stays there to help kind of motivate them to lay, but also if they get into the habit of like eating their own eggs, having that there demotivates them. So one of the things that I planted last fall was crimson clover, and I had done crimson clover the year before, so this time last year it was gorgeous, and I see the honeybees are on it right now, so I'm really excited to flip this around to show you. And for like $9, I bought a bag of crimson clover seed at the feed store, and I just walked around sprinkling it everywhere. What I made the mistake of doing this past fall was I sprinkled the seed after the leaves fell. So the idea is you want the seed to go down like right before you're gonna mow, so like the grass that gets cut over it kind of like helps mulch and keep it down and disguise it from birds and things. But it was so, oh, this bee almost landed on me. We were busy last fall, so I didn't get the seed down as early as I wanted, and it was right after the leaves had fallen, so it didn't take as much as it did the year before, but it still looks really nice. So I'll just swing this around. You can kind of see there's this patch here, and then this way, one over here, and then right next to me here we've got a whole little corridor of crimson clover, and we can take a closer look at all the bees. Right, we've got this girl hanging out here. Oops, here we go. You can probably hear all the others flying around me. They were slow to get started this year, and by they I mean the crimson clover and also the bees. Like, this clover has been blooming all week, and today is the first day that I've seen them on it. So if you're new to beekeeping, honeybees practice what's called flower fidelity, which means they will keep going to the same source until that source is gone. So like this worker bee will go back to her colony and tell them all about this crimson clover, and those workers will keep coming here until there is no more crimson clover left. So what was indicated to me when this was blooming and they weren't feeding on it was that they had another nectar source they had already started on, and they, for their own reasons, whether that one was more nutritious or that they found it first, they were using that one solely. So, and there's also regular white Dutch clover in here too. But yeah, this just looks really pretty, and it also, there's a girl in here, some other girls in here, a lot of them, and they're loving it. But what's really nice is when the chickens are playing in here, because most of these flowers are a little bit taller than the chickens, and it just looks really pretty. So hopefully they're free ranging behind this bush over here. Hopefully they'll be over here soon, and you can see how cute they look when they're hanging out with the bees. Loretta is showcasing the crimson clover walk here. And the other chicks, I see Mildred over here and Olive. And it looks like Bertha is coming in through here too. To give you an idea of how tall this daisy fleabane is, it is up to my waist. It is right here. So it looks gorgeous, and I just let it go to seed. There's a ton of pollinators on it right over here. I can give you a closer look. And yeah, we just let it go to seed, and it's just established on its own. I've noticed a few more patches coming up in a little part of the backyard, and also near the in-ground garden I saw a little patch starting there. So, you know, it just kind of naturally spreads on its own, and I'm really curious what it'll look like in a few years as it keeps spreading through here. And what I was about to say was that we let it go to seed, and when it's really starting to die back on its own, then we mow. And it's also around the time that the crimson clover, which is also back out here too, when that goes to seed and starts to die back, we mow that down too, and then some of it I rake up and put into the compost, but the rest we just leave in place, and just don't have to really maintain it. And every year, for the past 2 years at least, what I've done is I've harvested some of these like early flowers off of here, and I also harvest the leaves, and I dehydrate them, and then I use them in teas throughout the year. And daisy fleabane is supposed to be really good for enhancing kidney function, I just think it looks pretty in tea. I don't really notice much of a flavor with it, and I don't use it daily or anything like, or to treat anything, but you know, you can, you know, search online and in books if you're curious about the medicinal properties of it, but it's really nice. We have an abundance of it. I just kind of go around and gather some from a few different plants, and I end up dehydrating about a jar's worth, or a half a jar's worth, and that lasts me more than enough. Like, I still have some from last year that that I didn't use up yet. I am so excited that the bees have learned about their new water source. So, little update on the pond I'll give in a minute, but you can actually see there's a little frog right there. Let me see if I can zoom in. So adorable. So, oops, let's go back here. Okay, so the bees have learned about their new water source because I put out a bowl of water with some lemongrass oil in it, lemongrass essential oil. And I took away the source that I've been using for the past few years. You can see the little tadpoles over here. Because I put the pond in and I wanted them to learn to use the pond. So you can see these little tadpoles hanging out. So let me turn this around. Oh, there's another frog right there. You see him right here? And they're so cute. So far I've only seen 2 frogs here, so I'm really curious if they're the same 2 that I keep seeing over and over again. So if you've been following me for a while, you saw that I put this pond in last fall, where we have this stump here. And it's a no-dig pond where I have now added some irises and cardinal flowers, water-loving plants down there. And it has a solar-powered fountain pump, which it has to have direct sunlight for it to work. And those little tadpoles, I think I had in one of my recent updates that I discovered them. And so that was right before we had all the pollen here, which is like a ton of pine pollen, which gave the pond this like murky greenish yellow color. And so all that pollen and then the oak tassel pollen that has fallen is kind of clogging up that pump, but I don't want to clean out the pond and refill it yet because all the tadpoles are in there. So I might just top off the pond in the next few days because it is going to be so dry and hot. Today it was 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be 87 or 88 degrees tomorrow, so definitely pretty hot, and don't really want those tadpoles getting cooked. The bees didn't know that this water source before. I had a kiddie pool in the backyard that I had, all the bees are around me right now in the clover, that I had trained them to go to by using that lemongrass essential oil in the initially in the pond and the pool water, and then once they learned about the source, I didn't have to put that lemongrass in, and they just went there all year long. Knowing that it was going to be really hot today, yesterday I put out that bowl with a little bit of lemongrass oil in it in the hopes that they would learn that the pond is over here. And they did. So now that they know where it is, they will use it the rest of the year. And I just gave away that kiddie pool last week to a friend who just got ducks. So the ducks are enjoying their new pool, so it's just worked out really well. And yeah, that's the update there. I'll probably just leave you with some footage of just taking a look at the chickens right now. They're chasing each other. Just was concerned for a second. But I'll leave you with some footage of the bees on the crimson clover. And if there's any pollinator plants that you have great success with, that's really low maintenance like this time of year, I'd love to learn about them, and I'd love to add them. One of the things I like to do is add something in each season for both the honeybees and for native pollinators. So I'm always open to some ideas. Thanks.